Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm your host on Mondays and on Thursdays, Casey Foreman. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my first podcast of the week. A whole lot to look at and break down. As far as the world of basketball goes, the big thing kind of weighing over everybody's heads right now, since I think it was last Friday when it was eligible to take place, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning MVP, the Greek freak, right? He is eligible to sign the largest contract in NBA history, the Super Max extension with the Milwaukee Bucks. So Giannis is eligible to sign that contract extension. That is what I want to kind of start with today, break down. Should he, I know he could sign the contract, should he sign and extend, stay long-term with the Milwaukee Bucks? You know, it being the largest contract in history. If he did in fact sign it, and it's been over a week now, so I do think that if that was his number one intention, if he was signing with Milwaukee, no matter what happened over this next season, I think that would have already have occurred. You know, that is the largest contract in history, like I said. So if that was his intention, his number one goal, his plan, no matter what happened next year, I think we might have already had the pen to paper. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. That is what I want to start out with today. Also on the agenda, I want to take a look at some non-playoff teams last year. Some teams like the Hawks, maybe the Phoenix Suns as well. Okay, again, don't want to get ahead of myself, but let's take a look at some non-playoff teams last year that got a lot better in this year's off season. Who just might make the cut in next year's postseason. So let's take a look at some non-playoff teams that might make the cut next year, and then at the end of the show today, at the end of the podcast, my final segment, I also want to continue looking at next season, okay? Maybe it's a too early prediction. You guys can let me know, but let's take a look at next year's MVP odds. My personal prediction for that MVP award next year. Who will take home the hardware? Since the NBA's free agency is pretty much coming to a close, the draft obviously is over. The off season is coming to a close, so we pretty much know what every team is going to be looking like in this next season. Because of all that, let's go ahead and predict what some players might look like next year. MVP odds, MVP predictions at the end of the show today. Don't go anywhere. A whole lot to look at and discuss in today's episode. But like I said, let's start out with kind of the biggest thing right now weighing over everybody's heads, at least in the NBA world, especially in the Milwaukee Bucks franchise. But should Giannis stay in Milwaukee? Should he sign the Supermax extension? The two-time MVP is now eligible since, I think it was since free agency started a couple of weeks ago. But again, he's eligible to sign the Supermax extension with the Milwaukee Bucks. The contract would be worth up to 5 years and $247 million. So again, like I said, the largest contract in NBA history. And in my opinion, this is coming to the end of Giannis's, first big contract with Milwaukee. So in my opinion, it's starting to look like, kind of when Anthony Davis, when his deal is still expired. He still is working on the extension with the Lakers, but still, I think he's kind of waiting to see what Giannis does. But still, this is starting to feel similar to that whole situation when AD's contract was expiring in New Orleans. Is he going to stay and extend it with the Pelicans, or will he, force his way out and demand a trade? Will he simply leave in free agency? What is the plan for Anthony Davis? Obviously, we saw him force a trade to Los Angeles. So now, so it's looking similar to the AD situation. It's looking similar to the Kevin Durant situation in Oklahoma City. The Kevin Durant situation, to the end of his time, in Golden State as well. Are you going to leave, Kevin? That whole last season, that was the talk of the town, not even just in Golden State, in the NBA, in general. He's going to New York. He's going to Brooklyn. He's staying in Golden State. That was, the thing that was getting talked about all season long. Similar to when LeBron left Miami, when LeBron left Cleveland both times, all season long. At the end of that expiring deal, all season long, the talk was, where are you going to be playing next year, LeBron? And all three times, with KD, with AD, and with LeBron, at one point we heard, hey, we're going to play it out. I'm focused on this year, this team, trying to win a championship with this group. We'll see what the franchise puts together, and what we're looking at when we get to that point. But as of right now, we're focused on winning right here. That's pretty much what we've been hearing from Giannis so far. But now, similar, like I said, to LeBron, to AD, to KD, it's now Giannis's time to be in the spotlight. He is going to be playing. I'm guessing he hasn't signed it already. I hope he doesn't sign it. But still, he's more than likely going to be playing on an expiring deal, if he does not sign the extension. So he's going to be on an expiring deal. We know how much talk there was, like I said, before Anthony Davis left, before LeBron left, before Kevin Durant left, and it is going to be pretty much the same thing for Giannis, in my opinion, but maybe even worse to a certain degree, maybe even worse, because when Kevin Durant left, he wasn't the reigning MVP, the reigning defensive player of the year. When LeBron James left, maybe the first time LeBron left Cleveland, it was kind of a bigger deal. He was I don't know if he was the reigning MVP, but he's been an MVP, a somewhat relevant MVP. He's still the best player in the world. So Giannis is kind of in that realm with LeBron when he left Cleveland the first time. He's won an MVP. Okay, he's everything to this franchise. But despite what Cleveland did, Cleveland didn't do what Milwaukee has done, and seemingly it seems like Milwaukee is doing everything it takes, to keep the two-time MVP. But again, this is going to be the exact same thing, if not worse. He's the reigning two-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, and Milwaukee knows that every team around knows that. Okay, obviously they know, and they know that every team in the league is interested, obviously. So that's why we've seen them, make these moves in this year's off season. We saw them trade, like I've discussed earlier on the podcast. We saw them trade 3 future first round picks, 2 pick swaps, and 2 players for Drew Holiday. All of that for one player. That's similar to the deal we saw the Lakers pull off to get Anthony Davis. The Milwaukee Bucks have a similar trade to get a guy like Drew Holiday, a very good player, no Anthony Davis caliber guy though. But that is why we saw them. We make all of these moves, especially maybe a little bit of overspending to get Drew Holiday, but still 3 first round picks, 2 swaps, and 2 players for Drew Holiday. And again, as far as the 3 future round picks and 2 swaps, that is a huge chunk of the Milwaukee Bucks' future, and an even bigger piece of their future if Giannis decides to leave next year, and Drew Holiday also on an expiring deal. So those picks become even more valuable if Giannis does leave, after next season. So, but still, those picks are going to get even more valuable. But still, a huge piece of Milwaukee's future there. They also, didn't just acquire Drew Holiday, also acquired the 3-and-D player in Torrey Craig. I think he was with Denver last year. Now comes to the Bucks. And then DJ Augustin, another veteran player. Okay, similar to, obviously not the player of Jrue Holiday, but similar. And he's a veteran guard in this league. He's been there, done that, been on a decent amount of teams. He's been around the league. DJ Augustin has had a veteran point guard. He can knock down an open three-point shot, can kind of get your offense rolling. Somewhat not a huge creator for others, but can create for others as well. He's not a selfish point guard by any means, so he can get others involved, get the offense rolling. I like the veteran point guard role for DJ Augustin for Milwaukee. Also, the Torrey Craig addition, a nice addition for a 3-and-D player. Another player they went out and got, Bobby Portis, an athletic big, spent some time with New York, spent some time with Chicago. But ultimately, bouncing around, hasn't found a home. Maybe finding, I think he just signed a one-year deal with Milwaukee, but he's an athletic big, has upside, working on his outside jump shot, not really too much shooting, but he seemingly has effort, has potential on the defensive side. He's an athletic big, on the fast break, can go get a dunk, can get a block for you on defense. So, Bobby Portis, a somewhat versatile big, undersized big, so maybe we'll play the 5 when Giannis plays the 4 when they're kind of playing a small ball-ish. We'll see. But so they get Bobby Portis, DJ Augustin, Torrey Craig, the Bucks, and then obviously Jrue Holiday. So the Bucks definitely improved. Okay, Jrue Holiday, Torrey Craig, DJ Augustin, Bobby Portis. They definitely improved. But is it enough? Was it enough, to get to a championship, to win a championship? I don't honestly think it's even enough to get to the NBA Finals, let alone win the NBA Finals. But so that is the question here. That is honestly what I think it will take to make Giannis sign that Supermax extension, to keep Giannis in Milwaukee long term. I think the only way the Bucks can do that is by getting to the NBA Finals, like I said, and then if not, hopefully winning the Finals, which I think is kind of a pipe dream, kind of hard to see the Bucks doing that with especially the Lakers doing what they have, the Nets being in the Eastern Conference. So the Heat haven't gone anywhere, and then we know what they did to Milwaukee last year. But still, I think they did get better. Okay, they definitely improved. But was it enough to win a championship? No, in my opinion. Jrue Holiday, a very good player, an underrated player. Okay, a two-way threat. He can go get it done on both sides of the floor. That's why he is a very good fit in Milwaukee. He's going to fit right into their great defense, and then go create for himself and others on the offensive side. He makes it a lot harder for teams to beat the Bucks simply by packing the paint, by not letting Giannis get to the interior. So they make it a lot harder to beat Milwaukee, because now he can create for himself. He can shoot the outside jump shot. So you can't just pack the paint and expect a victory now. Now you have to go out there and guard a guy on the perimeter like Jrue Holiday. So yes, the Bucks definitely improved. However, I think a big blow for them was not going out and getting a guy like Bogdanovich. And we know there was rumor they were having a sign and trade. Bogdanovich apparently never agreed to the trade, the sign and trade. Yeah, he does have to agree to it if it is a sign and trade. He does not agree to it, and Milwaukee ultimately, whiffs on getting the 3-point sniper. I think it's a big blow. He's a great shooter, and apparently, I'll say again in a moment why this is such a big deal. But apparently, Giannis really wanted him. Giannis really wanted Bogdanovich. Really liked that his shooting ability, and really liked that he was a European player. Thought he was a gritty guy. Thought he could go to war with him in the postseason. So he really wanted a player like Bogdanovich. The Bucks somewhat, swing and miss on Bogdanovich. Other players that they got, like Jrue, like Torrey Craig, like Augustine, Bobby Portis, those are all good pieces. Okay, especially Jrue. He's a very good piece to add to the roster, but was it enough to win a championship, to even get to a championship? Credit, you want to give credit where it is due. Milwaukee knew that Giannis needed some reason to stay. He needed, hey, we got to get better. I needs some reason to extend long term, and they went out and got a player like Jrue Holiday, an all-star caliber player, a two-way player. They know Giannis needs, again, reasons to stay. They gave up, yes, a lot. They gave up a lot for the guy in Jrue Holiday, but that does in fact show that they care and that they are trying to win. They're trying to get better. They're not just staying put and saying, no, Giannis, you go out there and win for us. They're going out there and getting players to get better. I want to take a quick break, guys. We'll continue on discussing should Giannis extend in Milwaukee. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, guys, welcome back. Like I said before the break, let's continue on discussing Giannis. Should he extend? Should he stay in Milwaukee long term? Obviously, with all the moves that the Bucks front office has been making, they are making they're trying their best, I should say, okay, to show Giannis why he should stay in Milwaukee. They're showing him, hey, we're putting the effort in, to make you say we're trying to get better. So you got to give credit where credit is due. However, with all the moves they have been making, is it enough? They swung and missed on a guy like Bogdanovich, who Giannis apparently really wanted. So is it enough? Him playing on this expiring deal, them giving up so much to get him, everything that is going on. It's really feeling like the whole LeBron, his last year in Miami, AD, his last year in New Orleans, Giannis said it himself. Giannis said this himself. Let me get the quote. So this is about, so Giannis was asked, he was asked about signing the extension. What are your plans? What are your thoughts about signing the extension in Milwaukee? He says, it depends on, quote, this is from Giannis, it depends on the decisions that they make. It depends on the decisions that they make. If they make the right ones, I'll be here for many years. And if not, we'll see. The NBA is a business. Okay, so wrapping it up, it depends. Ultimately, it depends on what Milwaukee's front office does, what moves they make. If they make the right ones, he'll stay long term. If they don't get the players he wants, he will leave. Okay, that is what I got from that. So that seems like Giannis knows exactly what he is doing. By not signing the extension right now, he's waiting to see, next year what this roster looks like, how we all play together, do we all fit? Is Jrue Holiday the piece that we need to get over the hump? Same with these other pieces. So that is what Giannis is waiting for. He's waiting to see the difference in the roster, the difference in play, the moves that they make. Like he said, did they make the right ones? We'll see if they did. If they did, I'll be here for many years. So I think what he means by that is, with all the moves they made in this year's offseason, if they do in fact get to a championship or win a championship, that would be the telling signs, right? That would be the telling signs that they did the right things and we got to the championship. They did everything they could and we got as far as we possibly could. So that is what I think Giannis is meaning by that, and I think he knows exactly what he means, by what he says, and by not signing it, again, he gives himself the opportunity to see what this roster looks like. Does he want to be a part of this franchise going forward? And if he does end up leaving Milwaukee, That is kind of the thing I want to segue to right now. If he does, in fact, end up leaving Milwaukee, where does he fit best? But personally, before I get to that, I don't think Giannis should stay. I don't think he should sign the historically large contract that is in front of him. Again, that's easier for me to say. I'm not the one being offered $250 million for the next 5 years. A lot easier said than done. But for me, looking in, from the outside looking in, the franchise, the position he is in right now with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think the best situation for him is to play out this next year. Don't force a trade. Play out this next year with this roster. Continue to boost your stock, right? Do it the right way. Go for the championship, and then when this team comes up short in next year's postseason, that is when you leave. You leave the right way, unless you tell them, hey, I'm going to leave, and if you want to leave them with something, you can do the whole sign and trade thing to get them something in return as well when you're doing. So there are ways to get Milwaukee something in return if he does in fact end up leaving. So he doesn't have to end up leaving high and dry. But overall, what I think he should do, the smartest thing for Giannis Antetokounmpo would be for him to turn down the extension, play out this next year, and then test next year's free agency, see what is the best situation available for him next year. And again, if he does end up leaving Milwaukee, where does he fit best? He won't make as much money elsewhere, but there's no doubt he can join a much better roster. Miami was kind of the seemingly perfect place for Giannis. They just got to the NBA Finals, right? They just got to the NBA Finals, and they had cap space. Now that they have extended Bam Adebayo seasons early before they necessarily had to, giving him the comfort and the clarity, locking him up long term, making him comfortable, giving him not making him basically play for the contract, giving him what he deserved. Bam. So he's very, very deserving of the contract. But since they paid him so early, their cap is running out. They really don't have any room to sign Giannis outright next year. Maybe the only way they could is by moving pieces they have now in his sign and trade deal. But still, by signing Bam Adebayo, they pretty much ruin their chances at signing him outright next year. But the fit is there. Okay, they need a guy to go create for himself, to go get his own shot. He's surrounded by shooters, been Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson. So he's surrounded by shooters already. Jimmy Butler. They simply need Bam Adebayo, also a very good player. So they have the player, they have the talent already. They need one final piece. It seemed like Giannis was seemingly the perfect piece, the missing piece in Miami, not looking too good anymore. The salary cap not really in position anymore to sign a guy like Giannis after signing Goran Dragic to the contract they signed him to, signing Bam Adebayo to the contract they signed him to. So after all that, not looking too good for Giannis to end up in Miami. Another team that was kind of rumored out there, it was kind of a lot last year, not so much, right now. It was really during the season last year that they were going to trade the number 2 pick in Andrew Wiggins and whatever the future, whatever else they had to offer. But, Golden State was another team rumored to be making a push for Giannis, but they ended up using the number 2 pick for James Wiseman. They ended up keeping young players like Andrew Wiggins, like Eric Pascal. So for now, at least, they would have to probably move the Draymond Green or Klay Thompson contract, as well as James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins, maybe, and Eric Pascal. So it would take a huge package to get Giannis to Golden State, almost depleting the whole roster. Almost, I don't even know if it's necessarily worth it. But hey, at one point, Golden State was a rumored thing. Now, kind of looking like it was kind of like a Golden State fans' pipe dream, kind of. They use the number 2 overall pick that is seemingly are going to keep Andrew Wiggins, keep the number 2 pick in James Wiseman. So that the Golden State Giannis, the Golden State pairing with Klay and Steph, kind of seeming like a pipe dream. now, especially with all the moves that has transpired. Clay's injury, him going down. Yeah, not looking too good for the Bay Area. Sorry, for San Francisco now, adding Giannis to that roster. But the last place I think I want to discuss, and the last place I think that he fits best, the best fit for Giannis in free agency next year has got to be Dallas and the Dallas Mavericks, okay? Obviously led by Luca Dontich. But if you end up pairing Luca with a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, that is two MVP caliber players. Giannis already winning one. Luca, I don't want to spoil it for my next segment or for my final segment, but a guy I think who could very well win an MVP in coming years. But pairing those two MVP caliber players together, also two very young players, so that they have a decade of basketball left to play. Hopefully those two players have left. So pairing two young MVP caliber players, in my opinion, this Dallas Maverick roster has gotten better and better and better over the last couple of years since they drafted Luca. Giannis to the Mavericks, pairing that roster up. He has shooting in Luca, a guy to go create for himself, create for Giannis as well. They might have to move off of Kristaps Porzingis. We'll see if they can make the money right. But if they can keep Kristaps and Luca and add Giannis, those three guys are young. They have tremendous upside, and I think they become the favorites right away. Giannis to the Mavericks. You heard it here first. Ish. Okay, it's kind of been thrown out there, but still, you heard it here relatively first. I think the best fit for Giannis in next year's free agency has got to be the Dallas Mavericks, and pairing with a guy like Luca Dontich. I don't think he should sign the extension, the Supermax extension. Again, I know it's easier said than done. It's the largest contract in NBA history if he did in fact end up signing it. However, with the roster they have intact, I think his best chance to win a championship, he already has the MVP awards. He needs to win rings. I think the best chance for him is go pair up with another high-level talented player like Luka. Go win championships in Dallas with the Mavericks. That is what I think Giannis Antetokounmpo should do. What do you guys think? I want to take a quick break. Before I take a break, let's take a quick sneak peek on what I want to discuss on when I come back. So when I come back, let's take a look on some non-playoff teams. Okay, some teams that did not make the cut last year, but have made tremendous strides in this year's off season, and they just might make the cut next year. Some teams I'm talking about, maybe Atlanta, okay, maybe Phoenix, maybe Charlotte has gotten a lot better. Golden State, obviously, they had the number 2 pick, one of the worst teams in the league last year. Steph coming back, got Andrew Wiggins, Draymond coming back, hopefully with a chip on his shoulder, James Wiseman, so and also Kelly Oubre Jr. So teams like those who didn't make the postseason last year, I think they will be back. I think they will be making a push this year. This year's off season has been wild. Like I've been discussing here on GSMC, there have been so many moves that have transpired. A lot of teams got a lot better, in my opinion. Some not so much. We saw teams like Toronto. I don't think Toronto got a lot better. Losing Marc Gasol, losing Serge Ibaka, they did end up getting Fred VanVleet locked up long term, and brought in a guy like Aaron Baines to maybe replace those two big guys. But still, I don't think Toronto got a whole lot better. I don't think Boston got a whole lot better. Philadelphia, we'll see what other moves. I think Philadelphia added some shooters. I think Philly added some much needed shooting. They were at their best when they had shooters, but still, my main point is we've seen teams make a whole lot of moves in this year's offseason, seemingly moves that they needed to make to put them in perfect place for next season. So that is exactly what I want to talk about, exactly what I want to discuss when I come back after the break. A lot of teams got better and some not so much, but I want to focus on the positive. Take a look at some teams that improved. The Atlanta Hawks, like I said, seemingly are kind of the first team to come to mind. They had the number 6 overall pick before the draft, I was preaching they should trade the pick maybe for a guy like DeMar DeRozan. I thought San Antonio should have been shopping him and a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge. So I think he's a veteran all-star player, can go out and score. I thought that would have been seemingly a pretty good fit for the Atlanta Hawks, but they go out and get a guy like Danilo Gallinari, a bona fide scorer. I think he's made his teams a whole lot better over the last couple of seasons, so I love the move by the Atlanta Hawks. Also like the move by the Charlotte Hornets, bringing in a guy like Gordon Hayward. Also, like I said, the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson going down, they bring in a guy like Kelly Oubre Jr., an 18-point-a-night scorer, 6-7 rebounds per night, can spread the floor and shoot the three ball. So all of these teams are perfect examples that didn't quite make the cut last year, who are going to be a whole lot better next season. I'm going to take a quick break. That is coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to Extreme Cage Fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Like I said before the break, let's take a look at some non-playoff teams last year that took some strides in this year's offseason and have gotten a whole lot better, and they just might make the cut in next year's postseason. Like I said before the break, this year's offseason has been wild. We have seen so many moves so far. We've seen a lot of teams get a lot better, some not so much, okay, but still. Like I said, let's focus on the positive. Take a look at some teams that have improved. Like I said, but the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are one team, are kind of the team that kind of first comes to mind, in my opinion, when I'm talking about moves in this year's offseason. Yes, many teams come to mind. The Portland Trail Blazers got Robert Covington, re-sign Rodney Hood, bring in Enes Kanter, bring him back. So they made a lot of moves, bring back Carmelo Anthony. They made a lot of moves that they needed to make Portland. So there have been a lot of teams out there, so don't think I'm just snubbing your team. Okay, the Lakers also, right? The Lakers have made so many moves. They've basically upgraded at every position. Rajon Rondo to Dennis Schroeder. Dwight Howard to Marc Gasol. JaVale McGee to Montrezl Harrell. They have made so many improvements overall. Danny Green to Wesley Matthews. So there have been so many improvements. The Atlanta Hawks, very similar to LA, making moves, making their team a whole lot better. Last year, this team, Atlanta, 14th in the Eastern Conference, the second to worst team in the East. We know the East is kind of the worst conference in basketball, and they're the second worst team in the worst conference in basketball. Yeah, a pretty bad basketball team last year. They were 20-47. They were also one of those 8 basketball teams that was not invited to the Orlando bubble last year. However, in next year's season, in this upcoming season for the Atlanta Hawks, I predict a different result. I honestly think They have been busy. I think they have made a lot of additions for the better. Okay, I think they've gotten a lot better. They acquired a guy I am very high on in Danilo Gallinari. Like I said before the break, a bona fide scorer, a veteran scorer. Last year averaged 18 points per game. So he can go out there, give you 18 to 20 points on a given night, be a third scoring option, or if you need him, he can be your first scoring option on a night. Not every night, but some nights he can be your number one, some nights he's going to be your number two, number three, but still a consistent scorer for you and a versatile defender. He can guard multiple positions, 3 through 5 seemingly, not just some effort guy. He can really make a difference on the defensive end as well, spread the floors, shoot the three ball at a high rate. So this is a player that Atlanta got, okay? Atlanta got a bona fide 18 points a night, a versatile defender, and again, the last two teams that Danilo Gallinari has been a part of, the last two teams Gallinari has been on, the Atlanta Hawks? Yeah, the Atlanta Hawks, and sorry, now he's on the Hawks. The Los Angeles Clippers, and then the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm so sorry. So the Thunder and the Clippers, both of those teams overachieved. If you remembered the Clippers years back, that's the team. Gallinari was a big part of that team. That was a team that took the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. That Clipper team took the Warriors 6 games in the first round of the postseason years back, but still, they took this group, that group 6 games. Gallinari was a big part of that team. Again, 18 points per night, a versatile defender. Also with OKC last year, averaged again 17, 18 points per night. They overachieved. We all saw this team as a rebuilding group. It's a group that was going to be in the lottery. However, they end up being tied for the 4th best record in the Western Conference. Go 7 games with the 2 MVPs in Houston, James Harden and Russell Westbrook. They go 7 games, and ultimately it comes down to the final possession. They very well could have beaten the Houston Rockets in the first round of the postseason. So that team did nothing but overachieve. I know Chris Paul was a huge factor, but Danilo Gallinari was right there behind him. Gallinari, Dennis Schroeder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chris Paul, and all 4 of those guys were huge for the Thunder last year. But still, we've seen a trend, I should say, with the Clippers, with OKC, and hopefully he can come right into Atlanta and do exactly what he did for the Clippers, for OKC, help them overachieve and make the postseason when people don't necessarily think they have it in them. So Gallinari, a fantastic addition for the Atlanta Hawks. Another guy the Hawks went out and got a great addition, I think, for Atlanta also, a veteran point guard to back up Trae Young in Rajon Rondo. Yes, Rajon. Yes, we know that there's been controversy for him in the locker room, on the court. If you don't have the same IQ as him, he tends to maybe talk down to you and be a little rude and stuff like that. Yeah. You can say what you want. I think excellence kind of demands a certain amount of excellence. I think he's a very good point guard, one of the highest IQs the game has ever seen. So yeah, when a guy doesn't seem to see the game like you do and you see it at such a high level, I completely understand why and how that can be frustrating. So I understand. I see why he can be frustrated at times, but no matter the track record of Rondo, the Hawks are getting a veteran point guard. Okay, he can come in immediately and lead the second unit offense. Okay, he can run plays, create for others. We saw it in the bubble, especially. He's never been better at shooting the basketball. So Rondo can lead an offense. He's won multiple championships. One with the LA. One with the Celtics, obviously. So he can lead an offense, help you defensively as well. He's a dog defensively. Again, can back up Trae Young, can lead a second unit. He's won championships. I think this is a great role for Rondo to come in and back up Trae Young. Great move for the Hawks. They also, in my opinion, they steal Yes, steal. They steal Bogdanovich from Milwaukee, the three-point sniper. I was saying it earlier. Giannis really wanted him on the Bucks. He really wanted him in Milwaukee for a reason. He is a three-point sniper. He adds, he's going to add to this team's shooting. They already have Cam Reddish, Trae Young. They're adding now Bogdanovich, so Danilo Gallinari. They're now adding Bogdanovich. Trae Young is going to have nothing but shooters around him. DeAndre Hunter can spread the floor and shoot the ball as well. So he has nothing but Kevin Huerter as well can shoot the ball. So they have a whole lot of shooters in Atlanta. Bogdanovich is a bona fide three-point sniper, so he does nothing but add to the three-point shooting on this already deep shooting team. Bogdanovich does do a big move for the Hawks there. They also go out and draft Onyeka Okongwu, the center, who can spread the floor. Okay, he can spread the floor and shoot the ball. He's versatile defensively. He's very long. So they also have Clint Capella, so we'll see how that goes at the center position. He is like almost 7 feet tall. Okongwu is, so 6'11" maybe. So don't know if he's more of a power forward guy. Will they put him at the power forward? Will they put Will they put the guy they just got in Clint Capella at the power forward or the center? They kind of have to figure out that position and that role. So we'll see what they do there. But Okongwu, a very good player, center, who can spread the floor, long defensively. So a lot of good additions. I think Atlanta, at the very least, will be that 8th spot in that Eastern Conference. Again, Bogdanovich, Okongwu, Gallinari, Rajon Rondo, all very good additions. This team is making a push for the postseason with their all-star point guard, all-NBA caliber point guard in Trae Young, and they're putting the right pieces around him, in my opinion. Atlanta got a whole lot better. We're going to see them in next year's postseason. Phoenix. Okay, Phoenix is another team that did not make the postseason last year, did not make the cut, but I think they improved tremendously. They got a whole lot better last year. What did they look like last year? Last year, they went 34-39 and honestly had a very impressive 8-0 run in the Orlando bubble, but still didn't even have a chance at making that play-in tournament. Definitely, upsetting for Phoenix, but, they're heading in the right direction. A moral victory for them in that Orlando bubble, despite the 34-39 regular season record that they had, and they still, like I said, failed to make the postseason. However, in this year's offseason, they go out and acquire via trade Chris Paul, the all-NBA point guard. He's an obvious leader of an offense, leader of a defense. He's going to be able to come in and take and make big shots for this young Phoenix roster. He's also going to go out there and create a lot of shots for the young stars in Booker and Ayton. I'm excited to see CP3 and DeAndre Ayton in the pick and roll. Ayton is going to get a whole lot more, the most open looks he's ever had in his career. Same thing with Devin Booker, playing with a guy like Chris Paul who loves to create for others and can create for himself when he needs to. It's going to do nothing but benefit those two players in Booker and Ayton. So the Suns go out and get all-star, all-NBA guy in Chris Paul. They also signed veteran 3-and-D player in Jay Crowder. Okay, so Jay Crowder, a veteran 3-and-D guy. He was a huge part, in my opinion, to the whole Miami Heat run last year, making it to the NBA Finals, upsetting the Milwaukee Bucks, upsetting the Boston Celtics, a team Jay used to be a part of. So Jay has been around this league. He's played with LeBron in Miami. With LeBron in Cleveland, with the Boston Celtics, with the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals, right? In the NBA Finals. So Jay has been around. He's a veteran 3-and-D player. Like I said, a big part of Miami. He's got a high level IQ defensively, and then he's going to be able to knock down some open 3-point and some contested 3-point shots for you. So a veteran 3-and-D guy in Jay Crowder. We know what Chris Paul is going to do for him as well. CP3, though, in my opinion, is going to be huge for Phoenix. Just adding him alone before the Jay Crowder move, before what they did, I think Jalen Smith in the draft, just by him alone, the Chris Paul move alone, this team will be a 5th or 6th seed in the Western Conference just by getting Chris Paul, pairing him up with Devin Booker, with DeAndre Ayton, and then the rest of the group, coached by Monty Williams. So I love what Phoenix is doing. I think they're right away going from not a non-playoff team to a 5th or 6th seed right away in that tough Western Conference. And the final team I want to discuss briefly, at least, the final team I want to discuss briefly is the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, this team has not been relevant, the Hornets, really ever, honestly. This team, the most recent thing I can think of that they were relevant was when they made the postseason years back, were the 8th seed, I think, to Miami being the number 1 seed, and they got swept by LeBron and Miami. Remember the whole LeBron dunk looking at MJ in the crowd? I think that was kind of the most recent thing for them as far as relevancy that I can think of. They made the postseason, yet got swept by LeBron and the Miami Heat. So that was the biggest thing in recent history. This team hasn't really been relevant in ever, really. So I think they did exactly what they needed in this year's off season. They go out and draft exactly who they needed in this year's NBA draft. LaMelo Ball, potentially a franchise point guard. He was the biggest name in this year's draft. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to sell tickets. He has pretty much, in my opinion, the biggest upside as far as anyone in this year's draft class. So they did exactly what they needed to do with that number 3 overall pick. I want to take a quick break. When I come back, we'll continue to discuss some teams that did not make the postseason last year, but got a whole lot better in this year's off season. And then also my final segment will be in next year's MVP race. Me weighing in on the MVP odds, giving you guys my prediction for next year's MVP. All of that is coming after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back. Like I said before the break, let's continue on discussing some teams that failed to make the postseason but are now making tremendous strides to get better and make it next year. Like I said before the break, let's pick up right where we left off with the Charlotte Hornets, a team that did exactly what they needed to do in this year's draft, drafting LaMelo Ball with a number 3 overall pick who's going to sell jerseys. He's going to sell tickets, and in my opinion, has the highest upside of anyone in the top 5, top 10, a potential franchise point guard. I think they did exactly what they needed to with that number 3 overall pick. LaMelo Ball, perfect in Charlotte. They needed a franchise point guard. I also like the move I did not see coming. I saw this player staying where he was, opting in to the contract that was available to him in Boston. However, we see him opting out. You all know who I'm talking about. And Charlotte goes out and signs Gordon Hayward to a 4-year, $140 million contract. Again, 4 years, $140 million. A big contract, yeah, for a player like Gordon Hayward, yeah, a big contract, maybe a little bit overpaid, but I like the move overall. They're continuing to improve. They're trying to be relevant. They're trying to get better, and they're doing exactly that. LaMelo Ball will make them better. Okay, he averaged 17 and 7 last year, 17, 7 and 6 basically. So he's going to come in. I think he'll come in, give him 14, 15 points, 6, 7 assists right away, I'm hoping. So he's going to help them get better. Gordon Hayward, he's coming in, giving him around 17, 18 points per night, 6, 7 assists, 5, 6 assists, 5, 6 rebounds per night. That is what Gordon Hayward's going to do. Both of those guys are going to sell tickets, sell jerseys, and it's going to help them get relevant. And again, a team that has not been relevant, a team that has not made the postseason since the whole Miami Heatles days, right? So this team is making the push for the postseason, and I like basically every move that they made. Yes, a little bit of an overpaying for Gordon Hayward, but they got an all-star. Hey, can you blame them? They got an all-star, to their city. They're pairing their young all-star, or sorry, they're pairing their young, high draft pick with an all-star talent. I like that. I like the direction Charlotte is heading in overall. A couple of seasons, I think, maybe not right away, maybe not, again, because it is LaMelo Ball's rookie season, unless he translates right away, which I think he will translate, but right away, that big an impact, we'll see. But within the next couple of seasons, I think they will be in the postseason. Charlotte is taking steps in the right direction, getting an all-star, and then taking who they needed with the number 3 overall pick, a potential franchise point guard in LaMelo Ball. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors got a lot better. Washington, the Wizards, getting Bradley Beal and John Wall back, they should be better. But tip-off is on December 22nd. We will see how good these teams are. Atlanta should be a lot better overall. Let's now segue, transition, I should say, to my final topic of the day, my final segment. I basically have, obviously you could throw other players like LeBron, Giannis, players like that could also always be in the running for this award. But I basically have 3 players to watch next year for that MVP award. That MVP race in the NBA is always a hot topic. It always seemingly comes down to basically 2 clear candidates, and everyone seemingly takes their side. Usually the guy with the better statistical season will usually be the winner. That's usually who we end up seeing win that award. But I want to look into next season, okay? Since after this year's free agency, that has come to a close pretty much. The draft is obviously over now. We pretty much have a clear understanding of what teams are going to be looking like next season. And since we know what teams are basically going to be looking like, let's take a look at what some of these players are more than likely going to be playing like. I've really been debating 2 out of the 3 guys. I have my 3, but I've really been debating the order of these 2 guys, my top 2. My third guy, no matter what, he's my third guy, okay? You're number 3 no matter what, number 3. But I've really been debating my top 2. But since he hasn't won the award yet, I think there might be a little more bias towards him. Maybe more people will want to vote for him. So why don't I start with this guy, Luca Dontich. Okay, Luca Dontich, he has obviously improved. Both seasons he's been in the NBA, he's improved from year 1 to year 2. There's been a large amount of improvement for him. That cannot be questioned, okay? He was the Rookie of the Year and then was in talks. I think he should have been in talks for the MVP this year. Was more, however, in talks for the most improved player. I didn't understand that. I did improve, but as far as most improved player, I didn't get that him being in the running for that award whatsoever. Either way, improved tremendously. He willed his team, the Dallas Mavericks, that haven't been relevant since Dirk was in his heyday. He willed the Dallas Mavericks to the postseason when no one really saw him doing so. He willed the team to the playoffs, averaging 28, 9, and 9, almost a triple-double in his second season in the league, might I add. His second season in the league, he almost averages a triple-double, 38, 9, and 9. In my opinion, I'm expecting him to come come back even better next year. In years prior, I'm expecting him to get better, and better. So potential, the ceiling is still high for Luca. I don't think he has hit the ceiling. Maybe he is getting close to, but I think he is still likely to improve because of that. Because of him willing his team to the postseason last year. He's on everybody's radar now. He was on first team All-NBA last year. Everyone knows who Luca Dontich is overall. He's going to have another great season, maybe a little bit of a step up from 28-9-9. That's hard to do, but I think he will do it. Have an even better year next year. And because of what he did this year, like I said, he's on everybody's radar. I think he's going to have an even better year. I think he will be more than likely the favorite to win the award in my eyes. More than likely, most likely to win the award next year. Another name I want to throw out there for you guys, a name who I have already thrown out there here on GSMC, but another guy I think who will be in the conversation, I think will be Steph Curry. After the injury to Klay Thompson, the workload for Steph is going to be larger than ever. Okay, him going down, they can kind of share the workload. They said it last year when Klay went down. They weren't going to do the whole James Harden and Houston thing. They're still going to share the ball and move the ball. But still, he's obviously the highlight of that offense, the focal point. He's going to have a larger workload than ever. Also, he just had an entire season of rest. So yes, he will have a larger workload than ever, but he just had an entire year of rest. So I have no doubt, nothing but faith for him to come back 100% rested, 100% healthy, and have an MVP caliber season. The workload is going to be there from the him having the ball in his hand. He's going to have the ball in his hands. Okay. He keeps hearing, and he's had the rest, like I said, and he keeps hearing all the talk, all the doubters after Kevin Durant left, after Klay getting hurt in consecutive seasons, people saying the dynasty is over. This team is never going to win at a high level again. Obviously, that makes Steph want to do nothing but go out there and play his best basketball. I think that is going to be exactly what we see Steph with the larger workload, with the rest, with all the talks, with all the doubters out there. He's already won 2 of these awards. I think he's eager to remind everyone what he can do. Expect big things for Wardell, Stephen Curry next year. Barring any injury, expect a huge year for Steph next year. And then the last guy I want to discuss now, who I think will be in that MVP conversation, is Kevin Durant. He's won an MVP already, similar to Steph. He's coming off an entire season of rest, okay? He just tore the Achilles, which I think will have a little bit of an effect on his workload. He won't have a huge workload because he's coming back from that Achilles tear, obviously, but still, he's going to be one of the 2 focal points of that offense, him and Kyrie, obviously. So, obviously, him coming back, the caliber player that he is, I gotta throw Kevin Durant out there, right? And with Giannis just going back-to-back, I think it's unlikely he's in the running again. Maybe we see LeBron in the running. I think that's kind of unlikely. I think last year was kind of his best bet to win the MVP. Anthony Davis is another player I could see in the MVP discussion next year. But overall, the safest bet for number 3 for me is a guy like Kevin Durant. Like I said, similar to Steph, just had an entire season of rest. Also similar to Steph, he hears all the talk, he hears all of the doubters. Like, hey, you did win 2 championships, Kevin Durant, but hey, those were cheap championships. You won those with the 73-win team, with a team that just won a championship, with another MVP player. So you didn't deserve those championships. He hears all of that talk. He hears that he needs to win here in Brooklyn for his all-time status, his all-time stock to rise. He needs to win in Brooklyn. So he hears all of that. He hears all of the doubters. So he is also eager to get back out there and show everyone what he can do. We haven't seen these 2 guys, KD or Steph, in basically a year, KD even longer. So it's going to be super exciting what both of these 2 players are capable of doing. Again, they're both coming off injury. If they can both stay healthy, I see both of them both players that former Golden State Warriors, but I see both guys being in the MVP MVP conversation. Steph with the workload he's going to be having, Klay's injury, KD coming back. He's going to have to show everyone who he still is. He can still play. I think he's going to have a great season because of that. He will probably be in the conversation as well. And then obviously, he's never won the award before. He's on everybody's radar now. He's continuing to improve after season after season. It's only 2 now, but he's had tremendous improvement. I think Luca is the clear favorite. Steph after that, and then KD. So my 3 guys for MVP: Luca, Steph, KD. Now my question for you guys before I end the show: who do you think out of those 3 has the best chance? Luca, Steph, or Kevin Durant? Or was your favorite to win the MVP discussion not named today? And do you think it's someone else? Maybe a LeBron, maybe an Anthony Davis, maybe a guy I'm not even naming at all, a guy completely off the radar. So what do you guys think? Is it these 3 guys? Or do you think it's someone kind of off the radar, somebody else? Either way, I think Luca, Steph, and KD all have tremendous chances at bringing home some hardware. Luca especially, because of him being so young, has never won the award. But Steph, he's going to have such a large workload. KD, he wants to come back and show everyone he can still play as well. So Steph and KD kind of in the same boat there. As far as teams coming back, I think Atlanta's going to be a lot better. I think that Charlotte's going to be getting better and better progressively. Phoenix is going to be a lot better. The Warriors, I think, are going to be a lot better. And then Giannis, right? The biggest question right now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, will he stay in Milwaukee long term? Will he sign that Supermax extension, the largest contract in NBA history? Or will we see him be leaving in next year's free agency? What do you guys think is the best move for Giannis? Who's going to win the MVP award? I have all those questions for you. Leave me comments on whatever platform you're listening on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're listening on. Leave me a comment or review, or go out and follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. Go comment on the podcast and let me know what you think of the show. Let me know what you think of Giannis, his whole situation, the whole MVP situation. Go check us out on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever platform you're listening on. Leave us a comment or review. Thank you, as always, for your continued support. I'll see you guys, as always, on Thursday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.